And the Surgeon General is warning Americans about the urgent threat of health misinformation amid stalling vaccination rates. According to the advisory, misinformation has prolonged the pandemic and put lives at risk by sowing mistrust and causing people to reject public health measures. Now the Surgeon General says nearly every death we are currently seeing from COVID-19 could have been prevented.
Every week, I talk to doctors and nurses across our country who are burning out as they care for more and more patients with COVID-19 who never got vaccinated, all too often because they were misled by misinformation. We must confront misinformation as a nation. Every one of us has the power and the responsibility to make a difference in this fight. Lives are depending on it.
And Surgeon General Vivek Murthy joins us live now for more on this. Dr. Murthy, thanks for being here. You say that misinformation is now costing lives and that we all have the power and responsibility to fight it. So can you start by explaining where this misinformation is coming from and how those of us who aren't doctors can recognize it?
Well, it's a really important question. Misinformation has been around for a long time, but what is new is that health misinformation is now spreading at a speed and scale that we haven't seen before, in part aided and abetted by technology platforms. When it comes to COVID-19 in particular, we are seeing misinformation about masks and about vaccines that are leading people to make decisions that are harming their health. Now, you don't have to be a doctor or a nurse to be able to address misinformation. We have the power, through what we choose to share, to control some of the spread of this misinformation, because a lot of the misinformation that's being spread is being done so inadvertently by people who think they're sharing helpful information. So bottom line, if you're an individual out there, before you share a post or an article, ask if it's coming from a scientific source. Is it credible? And if you're not sure, don't share.
Dr. Murthy, the administration's plan to boost vaccination rates by sending people door to door has been mischaracterized by some Republican elected officials as a scheme, basically, to force vaccinations on the public. So what is the purpose of this door to door campaign, and what's your message to those who have been criticizing it?
Well, the local door-to-door campaign is about neighbors and community members looking out for each other. What was happening in communities all across America is people are recognizing that the vaccination is a way to protect themselves, their families, and their communities, and they're volunteering to knock on doors, to call neighbors, to check on people and make sure that they've got the information they need about the vaccine to make a decision for themselves. That is people looking out for each other. It's what we should be doing in America during this the time of this pandemic. And I think the more that happens, the more people are reaching out, motivated by a desire to keep their communities safe, I think the better off we'll be.
And now, Dr. Murthy, some have also criticized the administration's vaccination push, saying that getting a vaccine should be a personal choice. What's your response to that?
Well, the vaccine is a personal choice, and people are making that choice every day. In fact, hundreds of thousands of people every day are choosing to get vaccinated. We have the highest vaccine confidence levels that we've had at any point during this COVID-19 pandemic. That's all good news. But we won't be satisfied, and we shouldn't be satisfied as a country until everyone is protected. That doesn't mean anyone needs to be forced to get the vaccine, but it does mean that everyone has the right to get accurate information about the vaccine so they can make decisions for themselves. Here's the challenge with misinformation. Health misinformation takes away our power to make the right decisions for ourselves and our families. That's why I issued the Surgeon General's advisory, because combating misinformation has to be a priority, and it needs to be an all-of-society approach.
And Dr. Murthy, you've talked about these social media platforms just amplifying the misinformation regarding COVID-19 and vaccines. What exactly have you witnessed? What have been some examples of misinformation that have really concerned you more recently?
Well, what we've seen during this COVID-19 pandemic on social media is that people who are willfully spreading misinformation often are enabled and allowed to do so for far too long. We've seen the algorithms on social media platforms direct content that is inaccurate more and more to people once they consume that content initially. And we've also seen that there's a lack of transparency, that there's a tremendous amount of misinformation being transacted on these sites, but that data and information is not shared publicly. So as a general public, we don't know exactly how bad the problem is. All of this is highly problematic, and it's why today in this advisory I called out tech companies in particular for the responsibility they have to take action, to be accountable and transparent, and help stop the flow of misinformation on their sites.
And a recent ABC News and Washington Post poll found that 73% of people who are hesitant about getting vaccinated say they think officials are exaggerating the risk of the Delta variant, and 79% think they have little or no risk of getting sick from COVID-19. So what do you make of that, and how do you regain the trust of this segment of the population?
Well, I worry when I see statistics like that, and I worry when I hear people who say that the COVID-19 crisis is not real, or that the virus is just like the flu. It's not. We know from science and from experience that this virus is far more dangerous than the flu. I have lost 10 family members to COVID-19. Many others have lost many of their loved ones. This is real. But the good news is we have a way to protect people, and that's getting vaccinated. The way to get through to people, though, ultimately, is through trusted sources. We want to hear from our doctors and nurses. Many people want to talk to their family and friends before they make a decision about a vaccine. So my approach as Surgeon General is to meet people where they are, to listen, understand their concerns. It's to support local doctors and nurses in their communities, to make sure they have the tools to reach out to the men, women, and young people in their community who are at risk, and to make sure they have the information they need to get vaccinated.
And Dr. Murthy, you just mentioned that you lost 10 family members to COVID. So first of all, I'm very sorry for your loss. And I guess I really want to know how difficult it is for you knowing that these deaths we're seeing today are preventable. What is the message you are trying to, in one or two lines, you have the floor here as you've lost family members and this can be prevented. What do you say at this moment from the heart?
Well, what I would just say to anyone out there who's listening, who's wondering whether it's still important to get vaccinated, I would just say that every death that happens right now because of COVID-19 is a tragedy, in part because it's preventable. I've seen how painful it can be to lose family members from COVID-19, and I don't want any other family to have to go through that, to go through what my family has gone through. So please take a look at the facts, at the information about the vaccine. The reason so many doctors are getting vaccinated themselves and recommending it to their families is because it is the single best way for us to protect the people we love and to end this pandemic.
Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.